And I'm saying reshaping from the career because as I stand here, I started as an apprentice, serving myself, where I was wearing a blue collar overall from 7 days a week and sometimes 12 hours a day. And I think the transformation that was alluded by other speakers is to emphasize to these youngsters that they can reshape their careers by focusing on the different aspects of the value chain or the sectoral growth. And I think for me, it's one of the things that I focus, but it's a story for another day. Again, this looks at the economic impact, the previous slide, and what are some of the areas that we're looking at from economic context. What's important is this next slide to say, from a tooling market, I know there's a lot of tooling initiatives that have been done. And again, if you look at from a skilling perspective, if you see 50% of tooling being developed in the South African context, and the 50% is in the automotive sector, it should start telling you something, whether you're an entrepreneur, you are an exporter, you are a future SMMEs, or you're a researcher. It starts telling you that the trend of manufacturing in this country resides within this sector. It's a question of you zooming in and diving deep and actually looking at the aspect of what goes beyond this tooling from a steel and the supply and packaging and consuming. And if you look at the mining, it only has a smaller percentage. Again, the theme of this is saying, well, skills change lives. And these some of the worldwide skills that we have. And all I had was a slide just to show some of the earnings. And again, sometimes some of these youngsters, I'm not sure whether we should flash money in front of them or flash careers, because they're not like us. We were following passion, some things that we like. And some of these kids are actually following money. So sometimes you have to create a balance of actually showing that some of these careers are careers that have a potential. If you look at the 25% less employees earning 13,000, and the highest, the average, and these are average figures, earning about 57,900. So it starts to tell you that these some of the niche sectors that you should be also refocusing and repurposing in terms of training and advocating for. I'm not going to talk about social realities. It's just that this slide then talks to the some of the aspects that have affected some of the feeder into the sector, where there's different profiling. The labor market was flooded with certain skills, and there was a need of newly qualified graduates, but the graduates were not purposed for the job. If you look at the value chain of the sector we're in, again, it's just to not have a myopic view on what you do. And you're going to see how the automotive sector fit into the whole transport value chain. These are 4 modes of transport. It's ship. If you look at outside Durban now, at every given point, you're going to see a Roro, which is a big ship, long ship with a long hull. That's a car carrier. At a given point, you will see that car carrier, and we're averaging about 2 in Durban, and in East London, in Gqeberha, we're also looking at about 2 car carriers. That shows you that there's trade that's going on, and these car carriers, you're looking at about 4,000 to about 2,000 to 4,000 capacity of cars that they can carry at one go. And these are some of the trade that comes and feed from the automotive sector. The rail is the same story. Part of the rail project that we're doing, which also require a lot of skills, there's going to be a rail project that comes from Tshwane to Gqeberha. It cuts across 4 provinces, and it's going to look for rail engineers, technicians, and so forth. It's a huge project that we're revitalizing. Currently, it's utilizing about 25% capacity due to maintenance issues and other teething issues from a Transnet freight rail perspective. But the injection of investment into that project, which is going to happen in the next few years, that's where we should be gearing towards the kind of skills that are going to be needed, where we have a potential of looking at about 6 trains a day to about 28 trains a week. And all that is capacitated by people coming from the artisan training or technical training. And again, the corridors, we always don't look at the transport value chain. I've looked at some of the themes of this conference. It looks at the transport and logistics. This is the backbone of transport logistics in South Africa. If you see the red, you know when you're driving to Cape Town, to Durban, these are highly congested corridors. The issue is that what do we do to harness the right capacity of skills for these corridors from all aspects of transport modes that I spoke to earlier, and some of the value chain, from your tire manufacturing, tire changing, battery charging stations, the whole list. I can speak the whole day if you look at the value chain. And again, the same speaks to our advocacy for the Continental Free Trade Agreement, where we're saying we want to go deeper into the African continent. And one of the modes that is needed is the rail aspect, which also is going to need a lot of technical skills when we revitalize the skills, because there's some gauge challenges. There's a Cape gauge, there's a narrow gauge, and there's a wider gauge. These are some of the technical skills where we need to be saying, how do we then standardize the rail gauge for the African continent? And these are some of the skills that are going to kick in to move from a Cape gauge to a 1045 gauge. So I think some of these aspects then start from a research, from a feeder, from a curriculum development change, from a prediction perspective. It looks at how the future is going to be like. And sometimes we want to train for now, we don't want to train for future. If we could look at China, China always envisage what's going to happen, and they develop capacity now. So there's always a success story of most countries developing capacity before demand. So they have built that capacity that is aligned to a specific demand, so that when the demand comes, the state is well capacitated for that. And I just wanted to touch on the ocean economy, which is my soft spot. It's a passion, but I just want to highlight its direct correlation with what we do. I'm not going to dive into some of the skills that are from the ocean economy. I think we can have another session somewhere else when we also dive into this. The reason I'm highlighting this, these are some of the world-class industries that are going to require these world-class skills. And we need to then, how do we harness the right skills to actually be able to look at the blue economy? And again, we need to unpack. If we look at the 9 subsectors as defined by South Africa, it talks to a lot of technical skills, from your shipboat building, offshore extraction, logistics, construction, and so forth, and renewable energy, which is applicable to all aspects. These are some of the aspects that talks to the development. I'm not going to dwell much on this slide of the blue economy. I think I've highlighted earlier on when I detailed the ocean economy. But again, this starts painting a picture as to where are some of the skills that we should be harnessing from a transport logistics value chain as a country. And again, these are the linkages that we have, being in Tshwane, but we've got a direct impact in the coastal area, because none of these cars in the coastal area, none of these ships would not move without the tonnage. And there's a saying in shipping that cargo is king. Whoever's got a tonnage, whoever in the world has a tonnage or a consignment or a shipment, controls the value chain. And that's how some of the leverages, if you look at China's story, how they've capacitated Singapore, it talks to what you should be looking at as a country. So these are some of the skills that we should be looking at that talks to the whole value chain, so that we don't see automotive in isolation. We see automotive as part of the shipping logistics and part of the maritime industry as a whole, but focusing on some of the value chain. I think from a career perspective, if these kids were here today, they will see some of the careers they can choose from. And some of us didn't have career guidance when we grew up, and we just followed God's light, and we ended up where we are today. Because, people always ask me, but how did you end up in the maritime industry from the starters? I don't know. God just led me there. So I think, they have an opportunity to listen to some of this conversation and be given a choice to ask questions and actually have the right choices. And again, the whole issue of careers widens in terms of what needs to be done, so that you don't see this artisan being an artisan that's going to be blue collar for the rest of his life. I was an artisan. Well, I was a trade person. I wasn't called artisan for 10 years. And then one day I decided I want to change careers and move to something else. Having sailed at sea for 10 years, I realized that there's more to do inland. That's why I changed my career to find myself where I am today, because I realized that from the blue collar that I was wearing on a daily basis, I've learned enough skills to actually redirect and retransform my life to where I am today. So again, it's just sometimes of the humble beginning, so that we must teach them. They're not going to be artisans for the rest of their lives. They can rise up depending what they want. And then from a skills scarcity perspective, these are some of the critical skills. Home Affairs publishes those skills I think in their report. But again, the SETAs are better suited with this information, better than I am. So I think if you look at some of the SETA skills plans, they'll be able to tell you what's needed. And again, I'm not going to dwell into the root of artisanship, which was dealt earlier on. Okay, yeah. I'm almost finishing. I'm for 5 slides. So I think one slide I wanted to just touch on. There's one aspect of artisan training that we always omit, is the business entrepreneurship aspect that we need to infuse, so that if that youngster qualifies as a plumber, he's able to start a business as a plumber. He's not waiting for Masipala to employ them. They're able to then go into business and start their own business and be able to harness the business skills and be well qualified. Yeah, I'm just gonna, because of sake of time, I'm just gonna go through some of the slides that I highlighted. Again, from a skills gaps, these are some of the gaps that we are looking of. These are the skills of the future. Digitization, new energy vehicles, autonomous vehicles. All these are some of the skills that are needed from a sectoral perspective. And from a training perspective, from a skilling perspective, these are some of the skills we should be talking about when we look at the industry solutions. With not much time given, these are some of the host partners that we work with: NAMSA, NECAM, RMI, AITF, Ford, AIDC, Innovation Hub, Public Works and Infrastructure. So these are some of the partners that we work with, that we have MOUs with, that we are collaborating in a number of projects going forward, and also some of the other strategic partners that we're looking forward to work with in the future, and make sure that they are part of the value chain that we're developing as a nation, so that we are able to incorporate them. Again, from an industry solution and innovations, these are some of the innovations that needs to be infused and a seed planted in some of these skills, so that we look at the skills for the future. We look at the NEV training, we look at the automotive, we look at all other aspects. And again, one of the mandates that we've been given, marching orders, is to develop a skills training that focuses on the automotive sector. That's a task we currently have at hand, and we are looking for partners that are going to come and assist us to make this journey a reality for the sector. And we're planning to launch this in next month in March. So this is some of the contribution we want to make, because training space is not where we are, but we've been asked through what we've done to say, can't you have a contribution towards skills development? And I think this is what we are. We're not subject matter experts. That's why we're soliciting partners that's going to be working with us in making sure that this becomes a reality. I think in closing, I was just going to highlight the skills of the future. and some of the aspects from the automotive industry. I think what's important, this is my second last slide, is to start looking at the future as a way of harnessing this. It's no use training some of these youngsters for traditional qualifications. We must look at the current trends. There's hydrogen, there's electric vehicles, there's green economy. There's a whole range of demand that's out there in the market. And if we're not training these youngsters for these kind of skills, the Chinese and other nationalities will come and invest and have the IP and the industries that we don't have as a country. This is an opportunity. We have the mineral resources from the African continent, and this is where we're seeing the opportunity to actually do. I thank you, given the short space of time.
Thank you.
I forgot my, okay.
Thank you. Great presentation, Dr. Zulu. We thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause again. Like you said, I think you need more time to engage, but also you need another audience. I liked your slides that talk to the different career opportunities that are available, and I was hoping that maybe at some point you can be able to share some of this information, because I think it's valuable for young people who are looking to choose careers, especially when they are in high school and they still have to make their minds in terms of what they're going to pursue. But overall, the presentation, I think, was really insightful to all of us, and hopefully some of the stakeholders or partners, potential partners that are in the room, can engage you outside of the conference. I want to make a special request. So remember, before lunchtime, I had made an announcement and I requested that we take a lunch break and come back at 1:45. And we ended up coming back 25 minutes later. Can I return the favor and request that we just take the last presentation now, so that we can wrap up, and when we go for the tea break, we are done with the program. Do you allow me to do that? Thank you so much. So the last speaker of the day is Ms. Unathi Dube, who is the Senior Program Officer, World Skills South Africa Coordination, AUD NEPAD, and she's going to be sharing with us an insight on harnessing the power of skills for economic development. I hope you can give her all the attention that you've been giving all the speakers as our last speaker. Ms. Dube, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, Program Director, Directors from DHET, all protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, and of course the online audience. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. My name is Unathi Dube. I'm from the African Union Development Agency, and I have the pleasure and onerous task for the establishment of World Skills Africa. With also appreciation to our colleague, Mr. Bobape, at the World Skills South Africa and World Skills Kenya, Zambia, Tunisia, and all the other countries that are the current 9 for the support which we're receiving to establish this regional platform. So I'm not sure which order. Okay, we have a small video for you, and then I have a small presentation. Thank you. a regional platform for skills excellence to empower youth and accelerate skills-based growth for our economies. Needless to say, we are here to learn so that we can transfer. Imagine this sort of conference at scale at a regional as SADC or COMESA, and ultimately at a continental level, what we could do to transform skills, to transform the lives of the young people on the continent. And this is what we hope to do. Are we ready? Thank you. If you show the presentation for me, I'll be grateful. My presentation is really twofold. We met with the WorldSkills South Africa, I think it was 2018, and in fact, I came here to Durban for one of the competitions. They came to African Union Development Agency, and I said to my boss, we shouldn't do this thing, you know? Competitions, what will we be doing? African Union does development, we don't do competitions. I want to say I'm a 110 convert. I had a Damascus moment after attending the competitions. And so we looked at it and we said, right, but we can do competitions. But our member states basically come back, all African countries come back to fragile, disfragmented TVET systems. The TVET practitioners are not speaking to the private sector. That's already been spoken of today. The level of mapping that you showed for us in terms of the different skills and how the multiplier effects, no one has done that. So how can we as an agency, as a development agency, look at the competitions, but also a TVET systems strengthening approach, so that the lessons we are able to draw from the challenges the member states are going through. The presentation today, you said, how can we use the test for the skills as part of improving our curriculum, as part of orientation for our colleges. Those are the sort of challenges, or at least those are the sort of benefits that we want to translate as part of WorldSkills Africa. So having reflected, we then, thankfully, we now have an MOU between WorldSkills International and the African Union Development and the AU, and there was a decision of the 4th Specialized Technical Committee, Minister here was part of, in which a decision was made that, look, it's time to have a regional platform. When African countries go to participate at the global platforms, we'll be going over to Lyon, fingers crossed, one of the medals will come to South Africa. Okay, it's not about the winner, but it's at least that the young trainers have motivation and come back with something to show others. And we said to ourselves, after we have done the competitions, we then have to unpack, and we have to unpack programs that are able to support member states. So first and foremost, we will be working together with WorldSkills International for the capacity building of experts. We will be as well beyond because that is standard in any case as part of preparation towards competitions. We also then intend to work with the regional economic communities to set up regional centers, capacity building centers. I'm sorry, Mr. Zulu, you'll allow me. If I look at the model, or at least the training center that you're setting up, Zimbabwe needs it, Zambia needs it, Mozambique needs it. So how can it become a regional center? And I'm sure there are other centers that are being established here in South Africa and across the borders. I know in Ghana, they want to set up a center for mechatronics, for the automotive as well, because it is also a priority, not only of ECOWAS, but it is one of the priorities of the AFCTA. So we'd like to then work with the regional economic communities to set up these capacity building centers. And last but not least, the issue of skills anticipation and forecasting. We don't know what the jobs 5, 10 years are from now. I have a challenge to convince my children to go into vocational training. No, they think it's not fancy enough. it doesn't have the dollars right on time. So at the end of the day, if we were at least able to show them the future and the potential, then at least we are able as well to give them that orientation. So we are looking forward to working with partners and are already engaging with ILO around the skills anticipation and the skills assessment work. You have taken away my PowerPoint, so I hope I'm not going off my script. They're struggling to load it? Okay, so I just keep going. I hope I have my storyline. So who will World Skills Africa be? The STC gave us a decision. On one hand, we're working on the organizational development side of it, so we really established it as a platform, as a legal entity. And as I said, we'll work with the World Skills International for the competitions, the capacity building, and the regional centers and the TVET tools. Our purpose really is to harness the power of skills for economic development. And what we've done, a critical question we're asking ourselves, if we have the AFCTA, we have Agenda 2063, we have these corridor approaches, we have the 4 priorities of the AFCTA, where are these skills going to come from, number one? Number two, do our countries actually develop their national development plans and align the skills development plans to the growth potentials that they have identified? So we're really positioning World Skills Africa to be tackling such questions around how do we have more sector-specific approaches, thank you for the presentation, sector-specific approaches that can help us to better align the skills orientation that we adopt. I've gone through much of the slides, so I'm going to be zapping through it. But then I'd also like to share with you, as the Deputy Minister shared with you this morning, that 2024 has been declared by the African Union as the year of transforming education and skilling. There are many issues which we will not belabor, but I think for me the saddest of all is that we have at least 9 out of 10 children that cannot read and cannot write their mathematics, and we know that, we're familiar with it here in this country. But we also have an out-of-school rate of 98 million young people. And so how can we afford them this opportunity to gain the skills? It's not necessarily to get employed. Our economy here in South Africa is very well developed, but further north, most of them are really going to end up in the informal, but all the same, you can have viability, you can earn a living, you can have a livelihood, because most of these young people, even by the age of 18, some of them, their children looking up to them and saying, "Father." So what skill are we giving them to be able to have a livelihood? And so out of the theme, we as the AUDA NEPAD are going to be focusing on how we can bring a closer link between the TVET and the labor market information systems so that we are able to be really on target in terms of the skills that are developed. The font, I hope you are, this font is totally gone distorted. I can't read it. I don't think it is very small. You can actually read it. Okay, no big deal. I will just zap through. I think the one I wanted to share with you is that we are then going to launch World Skills Africa on the margins of the Heads of State Summit on the 17th of February in Addis Ababa. And there we are really going to be rallying other member states. And so we call on you, please, to join us when you engage in forums to say, are you part of World Skills? Are you part of World Skills Africa? Has your country actually formed your own World Skills? Because we have seen here, I think the presentations and this community can attest to the value of what a World Skills, a national level can also achieve. And so our purpose statement is harnessing the power of skills for Africa's development, where we can provide a platform for peer learning and exchange. Last but not least, we are the next competition at a regional level, so maybe some of you were aware. The last was in 2022 in Swakopmund, and we are pleased and excited that Zambia won the bid to host the next regional. I was saying to the directors this morning, in Ghana, when they are looking up to you and admiring you, they say, we are learning you. So, colleagues, the continent is learning you, South Africa, because you joined in 1994, right? 1990s. We have only 9 countries, so we are really expecting a high turnout in Livingston 2025, the dates are 7 to 14. We will have the competition, and we'll also have a conference like this. And it would really be exciting to have you, all of you there, and these voices and these lessons and experiences being shared. So without, I think we've distorted the program, I've gone everywhere in terms of my presentation, it will be available for sharing. Let me leave you with the inspiration of this video. And I really invite you to listen to the last phrase, the last word that will be said on that video. And let's make it a reality for the young people. Thank you. The video, please. I hope you have it now.
Hopefully the video is going to play. Is it playing? Okay. I really wanted to give you a chance to play the video because you saved a lot of time. So I think your presentation was the shortest one, if not the second shortest after Mr. Bupap. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your indulgence since the morning. And also thank you for bearing with me. We've had a lot of interesting insights from various presenters. I am sure that the person coming after me is going to do justice and do the proper thank yous. But on behalf of myself and I would like to thank you for bearing with me the whole morning, driving the program, and also being such an attentive audience and being continuously engaged. I'm hoping that the presentations will be shared with all of us for day one, or at least they will be loaded in a platform which will be shared with us and we are able to download it. But also if there are any questions from any of the presentations that we will be able to, maybe through the online platforms, be able to raise those questions so that the relevant panel members are able to respond to the questions. At this point, this is my last okay, this is the last time you are seeing me on stage. I'm going to now hand over to the Chief Director, Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation from the Department of Higher Education to do the wrap-up and closure of the session of day one. Please give yourselves a round of applause for being such a great audience. Mr. Rainer Mgiba, please come to the stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Program Director. Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon. I know that it's a graveyard session. And if there's any culprit who is standing between yourselves and the adjournment, it's me. I will try and not to take much of your time. But this is really a very difficult task to wrap up the proceedings of the day, also to encourage you to come back tomorrow. Because if I don't do that, the organizers will really kill me. But Program Director, oh, she's gone now. Program Director and the organizers, I think we need to have a relook carefully of how we line up our speakers. I was sitting there and trying to really make sense of what is being presented. And the last speaker, Ms. Dube, I want to believe she was supposed to be the first on the program. And the speaker before her, Dr. Zulu, was supposed to be the first speaker. And the one before Dr. Zulu was supposed to be the first speaker. And the first speaker was supposed to be the first speaker. This is how important all the topics lined up for this first day of the conference are. And I really want to thank the organizers for really putting a program of this nature in the manner that they've put it. Let's give them a round of applause. It has been a long day indeed, not only for the program director, but I think for all of us. But just allow me, and let me request for your indulgence. I just want to recognize in absentia both the Minister and the Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Science and Innovation, the Director General of the Department of Higher Education and Training, Dr. Inkosi, the Executive Mayor of eThekwini, Councillor Mkolisi Kaunda, who really challenged us last night with his dance moves. If you were not challenged, I can confess that I was challenged. To the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education, Science and Innovation, I'm not sure if she's still around, Ms. Nonjabulo Mntungwa-Makamu, our chief artisan, our own, Mr. Joey Wupape, the DDGs, senior officials, the chairpersons, the CEOs of our entities, particularly those that are present here, the leadership of the South African College Principals Organization. I saw Meputisi here. I'm not sure if she's still around. Industry partners and leaders, competition sponsors, our international guests, those that are in the hall, and those that have joined us virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, as indicated, I have been asked to do a very difficult task of wrapping up today's proceedings, and I hope I will do justice, and I do want to do justice, because this is a very important day, as I indicated. And a lot was said on this first day of the conference. It is just the first day but I can attest that we are already overwhelmed with information, with insights, and perspectives that have been shared today. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank the Deputy Minister for setting the tone for today's proceedings. The Deputy Minister reminded us this morning, and thanks to our last speaker, Ms. Dube, for providing details about the focus of the AU and the theme for the African continent this year. The Deputy Minister called upon all of us to reflect on how far we have gone and what can be done to accelerate and intensify apprenticeship and artisan development, especially because the perception of being an artisan is slowly changing in the country. I am sure you will agree with me that all the speakers today shared a lot of insight and perspectives that are endowed with rich messages that resonate with the chosen theme of skills change lives. Let us give them a round of applause. The first presentation by Ms. Amanda Jetsing from GTech shared with us the evolution of artisan training in South Africa and the reviews that have been done on South Africa's spending on artisan development program. And I believe her presentation gave us a glimpse of how reforms and policies over the years have been emphasizing the importance of education and training and artisan development in particular. The question we should be pondering on are, what types of artisans are we producing as a country? And in what trades? How well are we targeting? How do we deal with the current complex funding arrangement for artisan development in the country? And as we participate in our commissions tomorrow, may I encourage you that we really ponder on these questions. She also made a number of recommendations that we need to consider in our discussions. The CEO of the World Skills International, Mr. David Howe, who joined us virtually and shared with us the benefits of the World Skills for member countries like ourselves as South Africa, and how the World Skills creates a platform for international benchmarking. Some of the benefits that he shared include joining hands with the world in attracting young people to TVETs, positioning TVETs to keep pace with industry needs and technology changes, etc. He also said something that was profound to me, and I want to believe it would be profound to yourselves, that the World Skills competitions are primarily not about winning or being number one, but about benchmarking your performance against international standards. I think this was profound in that this is a benefit no one can take from any of the participants. Professor Estella Reynolds, who also joined us virtually, presented on a very complex topic on building new TVET social systems to take artisan development to the next level. I guess we can learn from this international perspective, especially if we want to make the TVET college system a strong social system. And she says South Africa's artisan system can better improve if employers or companies can come on board and open spaces for placement and training, because there are returns on training investment. Similarly, Ms. Alice Voza virtually shared with us international apprenticeship standards. Our own chief artisan, Mr. Jowu Pape, came on the stage and told us we should continue to make World Skills South Africa a vehicle for apprenticeship and artisan development. He shared with us critical pillars of World Skills, and one of the pillars he shared, he says it's education and training, and the requisite balance required between curriculating and industry practice. Second last speaker, Dr. Beka Zulu, the Chief Executive Officer of the Automotive Industry Development Center, I want to say he hit the nail on the head when he encouraged us to leverage industry expertise, especially if you want to create an effective apprenticeship and artisan development system. It is just unfortunate that DDG Zungu is not in our midst today, but I believe the DDGs, some of the DDGs are here, the RMs are here, because what it means to us is that we need to intensify partnerships between colleges and industry, and not just intensify them, but make them work. We are now close to reaching about 40 TVET colleges in terms of establishing centers of specialization. Whilst this is a brilliant initiative, Dr. Zulu reminded us of the importance of working with industry, because this can strengthen South Africa's artisan development drive. We close off the program with another brilliant input, as I indicated, from Ms. Unami Dube, representing the WorldSkills Africa coordinator. Her input was very important in that Africa has a responsibility to ensure that the young people are equipped with relevant education and skills that are required for the economic development of the continent. And indeed, we have to harness the power of skills in our quest for economic development. And I think this was the emphasis of her presentation. Let me also take this opportunity and thank the Honorable Chair of the Portfolio Committee, Ms. Nonjabulo Mntungwa-Makamu, for her unwavering support to this great initiative. Her message of support last night during the opening ceremony was not only appealing to the young ones, but also to all of us. She has been consistent in her attendance of this event and very much vocal about our aspirations of apprenticeship and artisan development as a country. Lastly, may I extend my gratitude to our program director for really steering this ship so well. Ma'am, it is a job well done. Let's give her a round of applause. Equally, it's a big thank you to all of you. I think it would be correct of me to say you have indeed been a good audience. I think you deserve a round of applause for yourself. We look forward to another jam-packed program tomorrow, where we will have an opportunity to discuss some of the issues raised today and some of the proposed recommendations in the commissions. I believe the presentations will be shared. Let us, if they are going to be shared this evening, let us try and go through those so that we have meaningful participation tomorrow. Thank you once again, Program Director, and thank you to you all. Have a lovely evening further. May God bless you. Amen. The meeting is adjourned.
Just a quick announcement, Chief Director. There is someone who left the keys for Corolla. So they are with the ladies at the reception where the registration took place early this morning. So they must just go check those ladies, then they'll be able to hand over their keys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we check our bags? If you have lost your keys, just check your bags and quickly run to the reception. Thank you.
And watch Africa become a powerhouse of the future as the youth of Africa drive the economy for the next 10 years. It will be an exciting decade, and I really challenge the whole world to participate and support Africa to become that global powerhouse.
This is the beginning of something very, very big.
Now is your time. The world and Africa has never been in a better place for young people to stand up and make their future their own.
We need to enhance awareness about TVET career paths.
I want all the other girls and women to be able to see and realize that they can be anything they want to be.
Leaders, government, private sector in particular really need to think of what it is we can do collectively.
The reason why I'm here is because of my family and also because of the country. We have an abundance of different ingredients.
It's creation, it builds us.
We need implementers, we need artisans, we need people of different skill sets contributing to that path.
My appeal for the African countries is to join the World Skills Movement. The world is not complete without Africa.